2CC. Breakfast with Stephen Senatiempo.
19 past 8, a mostly sunny day across Canberra today with a bit of fog around this morning. 19 degrees in Belconnen, the city, and Tuggeranong, 18 in Gungahlin. So we head outside the ACT, a mostly sunny day, a bit of fog this morning with a slight chance of rain. Tops of 19 degrees in Queanbeyan, 18 degrees in Murrum-Bateman, 19 in Yass, 17 in Bungendore, Braidwood and Collector. Time to talk to One Nation leader, Senator Pauline Hansen. Pauline, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen.
You've just come off the back of Beef Week in your neck of the woods. I guess a showcase of everything that's good about the farming industry, but there's plenty of problems they're facing at the moment too.
There is, especially the export industry. Of course, they're still going after the government for compensation for stopping the live export under the Gillard government. So that is still hurting a lot of farmers who actually, a lot went under, had to sell their property and superannuation schemes and everything like that. So that's a big thing. Also, this government has done nothing for the dairy industry. As I've spoken relentlessly on this, we've gone from 1,500 dairy farmers down to under 200 in Queensland. We will be buying our milk products from New Zealand. We used to produce about 19 million litres of milk in Australia. I think it's down to about 10 or 12 at the moment. So for the population increase, we haven't got the dairy supplies that we need. You know, they've brought in the Reef Act, which has destroyed the farming sector in Queensland. So they're no friend of the farmers, that's for sure. And now they're looking at biodiversity, of hitting the farmers to pay for the biodiversity.
What do you think's driving this? Is it an ideological thing, or is it just a lack of understanding and knowledge of what's going on? Because I don't think the agriculture minister's ever set foot on a farm.
Look, it is ideological that they are with this. They know they haven't got the votes in the rural and regional areas, so that's why they don't provide for the farming sector. But the fact is, if we become a country can't feed ourselves, we're in real problems, especially if we actually have war touch our shores or in our region. We don't have the shipping coming in here. We are actually importing. We're a net food importer now, Stephen. A lot of people wouldn't realise that.
Yeah, which is extraordinary given the natural resources we have at our disposal. I mean, we should be a food bowl for this area of the world, but if we can't feed ourselves, we've gone so far backwards, it's not funny.
Yeah, well, that's why we need governments for foresight to make sure that we are self-sufficient, not only in the farming sector and providing food for ourselves, but right across the board. Machinery, equipment that we put out. You know, we've cut out manufacturing so many goods in Australia. We import so much here, and that's why we haven't got the productivity that we used to. That's why they're bringing migrants to bolster the productivity. It's a real shame.
It really is. So Jim Chalmers will hand down the budget tonight. Look, with most budgets these days, we know most of what's going to be in it before the budget actually gets handed down these days. I've got to say, and I've said this a number of times this morning, I'm concerned about this concept of being able to give a whole bunch of handouts to people but somehow keep inflation down. I don't know that those two things can happen at once.
They can't. And the fact is that Jim Chalmers is saying we're under 3% in inflation by the end of the year, about 2.85, yet the RBA says it's about 3.85,
yeah.
So it's about a percentage higher by the RBA. The fact is they can't. And if they keep giving a lot of handouts without the productivity, we're in dire straits. And therefore, the mortgage rates will go up, people will hurt more. The only way the government can make the money is to introduce new taxes. So I'm warning people out there, there will be new taxes. They're looking at the carbon tax, the farmers to pay biosecurity taxes on what they import into the country. It is unbelievable what is happening to this country, and we are resource rich. And the two resources that we have is our natural resources, coal and iron ore, and farming. And what are they both destroying? Everything.
Well, and the $9.3 billion surplus is almost entirely off the back of resources. Obviously, higher tax receipts as well. But I mean, that in and of itself tells you there's a problem, that we're being taxed more than we've ever been.
Yes, we are. But also this government's gone further into debt by $200 billion since they've been in. So that tells you another story as well. You know, smoke and mirrors, this is what it's all. It looks good. The handouts that they've done over the years to the people. But, you know, you're killing the goose that lays the golden egg. And people are getting fed up with paying the higher taxes. A lot more are going on welfare. Why should they bother going out to work? Why should they bother when you can paid more to sit on welfare? In Australia, it's just ridiculous the way we're going. And, you know, anyway, it's up to people where they cast their vote. start asking questions.
Well,
You're going to pay for it in the long run.
I'm glad you raised that, Pauline, because that's ultimately the problem. And I've been saying this throughout my entire broadcasting career, is the first thing we talk about the day after a budget is who the winners and losers were. It's always about what's in it for me. Until we get rid of that mentality, then governments are always going to pander to us who, because we're always asking for a handout for ourselves or a tax cut here or whatever. We need to start thinking broader about what's good for the country.
You're exactly right, and it happens all the time. We're in an election year. They have got a state election coming up in Queensland, they've got a state election in WA, and then they've got the federal election before May next year. So what are they going to do? Buy people's votes. And unless you realise what you're getting paid for, you're going to lose in the long run, because we can't keep going the way we're going. If we do, we're going to end up a third world country. And when you've got over 200,000 people in this country that living on streets or on couches that don't have a decent roof over their head, this tells me we're already heading down the path of that. So people need to wake up to themselves, take an interest in politics. I'm sick of hearing from people that say, oh, I'm not interested, you're all tarred with the same brush. We're tarred with the same brush because of you, the people. It's your fault you don't take an interest. So I get angry about this, Stephen, because I see my country being destroyed from when it was, when I was a little girl growing up this country. What we had, the privileges, living in such a lucky country, the wealth. We didn't need, the 3 TVs or the 2 cars or 3 cars and all the rest of it. We had the family home. We had, everyone was healthy, happy, and we looked at achieving things in our life. These days, it's all, what's in it for me? I'm fed up with it.
Yeah, you and me both. Pauline, good to talk to you. We'll catch up next week.
Thanks, Stephen. Bye.
Senator Pauline Hansen back with us next